Hey everybody. Hey everybody. I'm here from Clintondale Middle School, room 111. I'm rocking my Davy Crockett coonskin cap because I'm here to talk to you today about Texas. How we got Texas. I'm here to talk about California, how we got California. I'm here to talk about Oregon and how we got Oregon, and I'm here to talk about how you're going to pass your test tomorrow. So let's first talk about Texas. I haven't done a video yet about Texas, and really Texas starts with the Mexican independence that happens in 1821. And when Mexico becomes independent, it realizes that it needs more people to live in Texas. So it allows Americans, namely Stephen Austin, to bring Americans into Texas. And when the Americans get to Texas, the surprise is on the Mexicans. The Texans want their own country. So as you know, it results in a war, and this war really is about the Texans trying to establish their own country. Now, there's some good news and some bad news. The good news is that these guys are independent, and that Mexico was trying to force citizens to be a member of the Catholic Church. And as a Catholic, I still have a problem with that. I don't think governments have the right to just mandate what church their residents belong to. So the bad news is that most of these people in Texas wanted to bring slaves there and grow cotton, and wanted Texas to eventually become a slave state. So as you know, this slavery issue is going to come back up, but you know the basics of it, how the Americans and some Mexicans took over the Alamo. Santa Anna brought an army. The battle lasted 13 days, and Santa Anna's army was wounded and slow, and then Sam Houston eventually destroyed them at the Battle of San Jacinto, and Texas Texas became an independent country because the Texans captured Santa Anna. Now, 10 years later, one of the reasons that Texas wanted its independence, I think, was deep down they really wanted to be part of the United States. They wanted to be a state. But the United States was very, very leery of letting Texas join, because Texas would have been a very large slave state, and it would have offset the balance of free states and slave states. So one of the main reasons that Texas statehood was opposed was because it was going to be a slave state. So because Texas was not allowed to become a state, Texas then made its own country, and for 10 years it was the Lone Star Republic, until they finally did join the United States after the United States acquired Oregon. So basically, when the United States annexed Texas, the annex means took it in. When the United States annexed Texas, that angered Mexico. And the Texans had already had like a border dispute going with Mexico and the government of Mexico. Mexico did not acknowledge that Texas's border went to the Rio Grande River, which is now the southern border of the United States. So we sent troops down there, and our troops got into it with their troops, and it really all started over this border dispute in Texas, and it just basically blew up into this huge war. The United States invaded Mexico in 3 different ways. They went into New Mexico from the east, they went into Mexico from the south, and they also came at Mexico City on an amphibious assault led by the Marine Corps, and eventually took over Mexico City and forced them to sign the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo. And what the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo said was that Mexico was going to cede or give up about half of its land. So obviously that was bitter for them. And then about 3 or 4 years after that war, we came back to Mexico and made an offer to buy some land so we could put in a railroad that ran along the southern part of our country, and that's called the Gadsden Purchase. And that's actually going to be on your test. Now, tomorrow, your test is going to have 8 questions regarding everything from Manifest Destiny at the beginning to the Louisiana Purchase, the acquisition of Florida, and the compromise that we made with Britain over Oregon and how we took half of it. There you see Oregon up there on the board behind me. There's Oregon. Anyway, you're also going to have this map. You'll see this map in your book. They're going to ask questions. They're going to ask questions about these different pieces of land. I would suggest that you know that number 1 The number 1 here in the middle is Louisiana. I know it's backwards. Number 2 is Florida. Number 3 is Texas. Number 4 is Oregon here at the top. Number 5 is what's called the Mexican Cession. And the Mexican Cession is what they ceded to us after the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo, which ended the war between us and Mexico. And then the last thing, number 6, is that Gadsden Purchase. Like I said, it was bought so we could open up a railroad. Now, what I would do is I would watch this video. I would say to myself, every time Mr. Steffler makes a point, I'm going to stop the video. I'm going to write it down. I'm going to write down that point. Now, what you probably have done already is you've probably written down those points in your workbook. So what you could do is watch this video with your workbook, and every time a point that I make matches the workbook, you stop the video and you circle that point. Then when you're done, you go back through and you study all of the things that you circled in the workbook. You study the points that I made. That's how you're going to pass this test. But the key here is you have to study, you have to work at it. Now, if you're wondering about the other part of the test, the take-home portion, the artistic portion, if you have questions, you need to hit it up on Edmodo tonight. You cannot bring that thing in late. I'm telling you. It's not. It's a test. It's not something that's going to be accepted for full credit on Monday. So if you have questions, please contact me on Edmodo. I'll check it at least 3 times, probably once at 7, once at 8, and probably once at 9:30, because Mr. Steffler, you got to know, is going to go to bed on time. So without further ado, I'm going to leave you with this. Good luck on your test. Study hard, be safe, and God bless America.